All right, it's about that time, you guys.
You're listening to the TalkBox Show. You're listening to the TalkBox. Let's talk about it. Talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Yeah, you're listening to the TalkBox Show. You're listening to the TalkBox. Let's talk about it. Talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. You're listening to the TalkBox Show. You're listening to the TalkBox. Let's talk about it. Talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Yeah, you're listening to the TalkBox Show. You're listening to the TalkBox. Let's talk about it. Talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Hey, you guys, it's your girl Sonja G here on the TalkBox. You know what we say, every day above ground is a good day. We above the dirt, and the dirt is not above us. And I'm just thankful to have you with us on this evening. Before we get started, I just want to ask that you please share the live. Make sure you're liking the video. We appreciate you coming on, sharing your time with us. I have a special guest in the building today. Let me go ahead and apologize, Joel Windrow, for those who was expecting Joel on tonight. He wasn't able to make it. But we'll try to rebook him again. But I got somebody here that's just special to me anyway. It's my loving husband, the king of my house, Deacon Perry Carney. Woo! Hand clap. So how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great.
So anyway, I thought to myself, since we were going to speak about change and lifestyles changing and being able to tap in and live the abundant life that God created, called, ordained, and assigned for us to do. Who better to talk about that but my dearly beloved husband? So I'm just so thankful to have him here with me on today. And you guys, if you want to call in and ask any kind of questions, you know what to do. Call 615-893-1450. So we're going to dive right in. The time goes by so quickly. Babe, what is your definition of change?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for asking me to sit in. I know you don't take this passion of yours, lightly. So again, I just want to say thank you. But my definition of change pretty much, I think, aligns with what the Webster's definition of change is. Just the act of being something or someone doing something opposite of what it was before. So if you have, if you're changing lanes, you move from left to right, you move from forward to back, change. It's an act of doing something.
Yeah. So my thing is, there's a lot of things that had to change in my life in order for me to really start seeing the blessings of God, showing up and showing out in my life. For those who don't know, I smoked crack for about 14 years. I was a thief, a liar, a cheat, and everything else you want to put on me. But I got to talking to my creator one day, and I was tired of being the way that I was. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, then you have to change. But my thing is, sometimes I remember a point in my life where I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to change. But I want to give this analogy to people. A lot of times I hear people say all the time, I'm going to get my life together, then I'm going to go to church. Well, change is the opposite of that. You can't get yourself together. You know, God have to assist you with that. You have to make a decision that I'm going to do something different, that I'm going to listen to God going forward. But you just got to do it. So what do you think about that?
Well, I agree with the fact you just got to do it. Along those lines, it was, after, if you'll remember when we first, essentially when we first met, and married, of course, those that don't know, we met married in 4 days.
Yes, Lord.
I told you that I knew that I was going to change my spiritual walk with the Lord because I had to.
And why do you think you had to?
Well, I always known that if you're going to be, equally yoked, you got to be equally yoked.
Right.
I knew who I was when we first married. I knew the person I was, and I knew that I wasn't, aligned spiritually like I knew I needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the things I knew that I absolutely wanted to do, was to get, more spiritually in line with the Lord, so that I didn't, for lack of better words, mess up, what God was blessing me with. Right. Or should I say what God had blessed me with.
Yeah. Well, sometimes also I think one of the major problems with us living an abundant life is fear. Mm-hmm. Fear, the acronym is false evidence appearing real. The enemy wants you to think that you're having fun because you're doing drugs, that you're having fun when you're being promiscuous, that you're having fun when you're out there dealing with foolery. And so he puts fear in you, the fear of change. A lot of times we resist change because we fear the unknown. I remember when I first wanted to stop doing drugs, I was afraid that, what am I going to do if I'm not doing drugs? Because I was doing drugs all day, every day. So there was a fear there. Have you ever experienced a fear of changing?
Well, I never had a fear of changing. I always had the thought that everything had to change. I dropped everything back in 2003 and said that I was moving to another state. Mm-hmm. I had no family there. I knew some people, and I made the decision to up and leave.
Right.
Well, I left job. I had my children were young at the time, all of my family, but, I've always been, for lack of better words, a loner. I had friends, but, I've always been good by myself. But in being that way, I also had to learn to adapt by myself. So I can't really say I had fear. I will say that I wasn't afraid.
Okay. But with me, I think that there was a lot of discomfort in stepping away from what's familiar. Mm-hmm. When I talk to young ladies who are in domestic situations, they get so familiar. Sometimes we get familiar with the negative. We get familiar with the bad stuff. And with the familiar and the fear, that's what keeps us stifled and stuck. Because you get so familiar with this. It can be something negative. And you're so familiar with it that you are afraid to move on and get something else better. Even when, and now I'm thinking about my entrepreneurial spirit, even in business, sometimes God gives us a vision, but we get so familiar that going to that job from 9 to 5 every day. And when we get too familiar with situations and circumstances, we'll mess around and miss our blessings.
Oh, that's so true. That's so true. That brings me to I had a talk with Mr. Lynn Edwards. And Lynn, you know, we had a quick sit down.
Shout out to Lynn too for winning his election.
Oh yeah, good job, Lynn. And it was like Lynn was like, don't be comfortable with where you at. Don't be afraid to change. Don't be afraid of being more than what you are. And then we was talking in reference to me currently being the lead in my current position. He said, hey, you may be the lead in your current position, but you might be a great supervisor in another company.
Yeah.
You know, he says, so don't be afraid to, you know, to branch out. And a lot of people get that in working, you know, you get comfortable with doing your job, you know, and you're like, there's almost like a built-in fear that nobody recognizes.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just going to do my job.
Yeah.
You know? But
yeah,
your,
you think you
fear,
just stuck there.
Yeah, your fear is, well, really, can I be good somewhere else? Or will I fail somewhere else?
Right.
I know how to do this.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to fail doing this.
But I don't know who I heard this from, but if you're going to fall forward. You know, don't be afraid of failure. I tell this all the time. You look at Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player ever. He got cut from a basketball team. You look at the light bulb that we see. He had to do that light bulb hundreds and thousands of times before we were able to get the light bulb. And so when you look at it like that, then sometimes when we allow our fears to stifle us, we mess around and miss our blessing and mess up blessings for other people as well. Think about it. If Edison had got tired of trying to make the light bulb, we still would be sitting in the dark today. If Michael Jordan had gave up just because he got cut from the basketball team, then we wouldn't have been able to experience all of the excitement that he gave to us. And yes, there's going to be struggles when you're trying to change. You may go through emotional struggles, fear, uncertainty, anxiety, whatever it is. You might have some external obstacles or even some things internal that say you can't do that. You can't be that. Or one thing that I do not like is when I hear mothers or adults telling kids what they cannot do. I think that we shouldn't do that. Because that puts that deep-seated fear in them for when they get older. So, of course, yes, we're going to have internal battles. Of course, yes, we're going to doubt ourselves. But the major thing that we need to stay away from so that we can acquire the change is self-sabotage. A lot of times we are our biggest enemy. I know that there have been times in our relationship that I say, babe, are you self-sabotaging? Because sometimes fear will get in us and it'll cause us to self-sabotage.
So true, you know, and apparently there were actually times, you know, that we've come to realize I was self-sabotaging, and it got to the point to where, like I said, it went back to me saying I gotta be better, you know. I got to have a better relationship, and increasing my relationship with the Lord allowed my change to happen that much easier.
Right.
It allowed me to see that much easier. It allowed me to understand that what I was doing wasn't just something I was trying to get away with. It was also something that was hurting you. Okay. And I got to the point to where I no longer wanted to hurt you.
Well, thank you, love.
Well, you're welcome. And so it was like, okay, you know, because I say, you know, if it doesn't hurt you to hurt the person that you're with, you don't love them, you're using them.
That's true.
So I knew I wasn't using you. So, it was like, okay, then you must love her. When if you love her, you protect her.
Yeah. And you take care.
And you take care of what
right.
God has graced you with.
Mm-hmm.
We're all stewards here with what God has blessed us with, relationships, jobs,
children,
family, So it's our duty to make sure that we protect those things at all costs. And that protection comes with, for one, being who we're supposed to be for them, and not only for them, but for God first.
Right.
So when you are in line with where God wants you, everything else comes to you.
It does.
You wake up praying, thanking God for this day, thanking God for yesterday, and blessing and asking God's blessings for tomorrow. Everything else is lined up.
Everything else will definitely line up. I also want to let people know too that when you are positioning yourself for change, there will be obstacles. But I believe that failure is also necessary. Failure is not a bad thing. Donnie McClurkin sung a song, "A saint is just a sinner who fell down but got back up."
That's it.
And so failure will come when we're trying to change. I know right now I'm restructuring my business, and although we've been in business 20 years, now it's time for a restructure. So every now and again, we need to reassess our lives anyway and see what it is that we need to change in our lives, in our relationships, within ourselves, within our businesses, on our jobs, and not be afraid of failure. A lot of times people will try something one time and they fail at it and they keep going. And I tell people that I try to help as far as drug abuse. Yeah, you fell off the wagon, but get back on the wagon. You're trying to quit smoking. You're trying to quit drinking. You're trying to quit porn. You're trying to quit whatever it is you're trying to quit. You might fail, but hey, don't let that stifle you. Get back up on the horse. And sometimes you need to know and understand that failure is necessary.
Absolutely. I agree with that completely. Failure is necessary because, failure teaches you.
Yes.
Failure teaches you.
You learn what not to do.
You learn what not to do.
Hopefully. Hopefully. Now, some people get stuck in a cycle over and over and over again and miss what God has for them. And let's see, failure is necessary. Here's a good one about change. We have to have patience. Patience is a virtue. We have to have patience. Sometimes we try something. God give us a vision. And God want me to do this ministry. God want me to open this business. God want me to do whatever. And it'll be open for 30 days. You try it for 30 days. It don't go the way you want it to go. That must not be it. The truth of the matter is that's where God wants you at, but you have to develop some patience during the transition, staying committed even during the tough times. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And another thing with change should be expected.
Yes.
People, I know it's like you cannot be the same today as you was yesterday.
That's right.
You just can't. And you shouldn't be. You should always be better than you was yesterday in a sense of change.
Right.
You should say, if back to the Christian walk, if you don't know a verse, learn one.
One at a time.
Learn one. And get to the point to where you can recite that one.
Right. Yeah.
Because once you learn that one, you know you can learn.
It's
then
a
your
process.
change starts.
Yeah, it's a process.
And then you get to learn another one. And in doing so, you're changing. Because your body's changing daily.
Yes.
So whether
Don't
you want
know
to
it.
accept that change
Yes,
or
Lord.
not, change should be expected.
Hey, I'll tell you something else too when we're talking about changing, because here on the Talk Box, I just want to reiterate as much as I can that we have permission and authority to live an abundant life. And we cannot reach our abundant living without change. You know, the analogy of this, if you have a baby in 2024, and this is September 2024, and October 2024, that baby is still the same size, that baby is still not crawling, not walking, something's wrong with that baby. That's the same with us in our lives. If we're the same as we was this time last year, then something's wrong. We should be evolving, we should be growing and getting better, and reaching for the abundant life that we have permission to live. So I wrote a couple of things down here. I said a lot of times when we're changing, we need to learn how to recognize the signs of a breakthrough. The enemy wants you to look at your glass as half empty instead of half full. The enemy wants you to look at that as a stumbling block instead of a stepping stone. We have to be able to recognize the breakthrough. I know even in our relationship, at one time, you know, I was going to give up on you and kick you to the curb. And you probably done wanted to kick me to the curb a couple of times. But when you can look past those things and recognize the breakthrough, recognize the blessing in it all, there's always a silver lining. God said in his word, don't grow weary in your well-doing, for in due season you shall reap if you faint not. So we got to stop fainting all the time. We got to stop giving up all the time. That's why it's so important for us to accumulate some patience. And it's also important for us to set fear aside so that we can actually recognize the signs of a breakthrough when God is trying to change you. His word says that we go from glory to glory. And if you just listen to that, from glory to glory, that's a change. That's just a change.
And a lot of times what's happening is, you know, people are missing that glory to glory because they have no plan for that.
Yes,
you know,
that's good.
If you're not planning for what you're going to do next, if you're not planning for your next step, you're putting yourself in a bad situation.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not planning for when you leave this earth, you're putting your children in a bad situation.
In that jeopardy.
And you have to be real with the reality of one certain change is you're not going to always be here.
That's right. That's right.
And one day that change is that next day is going to happen.
Yeah.
And if you don't plan for that change, you've done your life, you've done your legacy a disjustice.
Yeah. So basically, in layman's terms, if you don't have a plan, you plan to fail. One good thing, I'm gonna give a couple of little tidbits that I do myself. You at nighttime, write down at night what you want to achieve the next day. I've noticed in my life that when I'm not doing that, I tend not to get anything done. It's like your wheels just be spinning and spinning, and nothing is working. And so when you want something different, you got to do something different. And so if you want to change, you got to do it. Second, you got to get rid of the fear. Third, you have to have some patience. Fourth, you got to embrace embrace the challenge and just step out on faith. And I believe that when we start doing that, we'll become the men and women of God that God already called and ordained us to be. And then we have to make sure that we are accepting and celebrating the little milestones. Sometimes we get lost because we got this big vision. You know, I take my car, for instance, you guys, because my husband bought me my dream car for my birthday this year. Well, that particular car had been in my dreams and my hopes and my desires for 30 years. But I wasn't going to give up on the thought of having that vehicle. And so sometimes what you want, some of your desires, the change that you want will not just magically appear, number one. And sometimes it takes a little longer, but just hold on and don't give up. Right?
Absolutely. And with that, you know, you're going to hear me say it. You've got to get your relationship right with your creator.
Right.
You got to, because you got to understand that this life, it's not just physical, it's spiritual.
That's right.
So there's a balancing act there, you know, and you got to understand that. And that's a part of change. Changing the way you see yourself, changing the way you see others, changing, you know, your priorities, changing your surroundings.
Right.
You know, if there was a saying I used to hear on the radio, you know, if you can't change the people around you, change the people around you.
I like that. If you can't change the people around you, change the people around you.
Yes, because you can't be the same. And you can't make somebody else be different.
That's right.
You know,
we got to work on our own self.
You got to work on self.
And so I just want to say today here on the Talk Box, this was very, very an important conversation, because so many times people are afraid of change, afraid of doing something different. And so my thing to everybody today is I want you to be intentional. Write things down and know that Jeremiah 29:11 is real. God knows the plans that he has for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans of a hope and a future. So you know what, babe, I just want to thank you so very much for coming on, being my co-host on today here on the TalkBox Show. I want to thank all of my sponsors, Pastor Michael Tyree and Bomb Body, and another shout out to Lynn Edwards for winning his election at Middle Tennessee Electric Corporation. But babe, is there anything else you want to add right quick?
Well, I just want to share, you know, for those who are Bible readers, it's one of the verses I've been trying to recite and remember. And it's 2 Timothy 3:16-17. And it says, all scripture is God breathed. And all scripture is God breathed, and it's useful for teaching, rebuking, correction, and training in righteousness, so that the servant of God may be thoroughly equipped for all good works. So it just goes to show, get in the book, because all the words are there for you.
All right, you guys, again, this is your girl. I'm Sonja G here on the Talk Box. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. We're going to have Sparkle, Miss Tanika Osborne, in the house on next week. God bless, and you have a great day.
Let's talk about it. Yeah, listening to the Talk Box. Yeah, listening to the TalkBox. Let's talk about